You are listening to the Life Coaching Secrets Podcast, episode 147. Did you know that life coaches are needed now more than ever? I'm Frank Macri, founder of Thriving Coach Academy. I've trained over 1,000 coaches and helped them launch their own successful coaching businesses. If you want to make an incredible income and impact as a coach and have a lot of fun doing it, I'll show you exactly how to get it done. This is Life Coaching Secrets. What's up, coaches? In this episode, I'm going to share with you a concept I came up with called meta coaching. Now, I want you to think about how in your coaching sessions, your clients are coming to the sessions with specific challenges that they want to address, or emotions they want to explore, or thoughts that they want to shift. So your clients are coming to sessions with what we know to be some kind of an agenda. However, have you ever thought about how there are sometimes blind spots that our clients have that they're not aware of? And the way that your client shows up to their coaching sessions with you and to the relationship with you could reveal other important things to explore, other agendas that your client may not be aware of. So I call this meta coaching. It is the process of examining and addressing your client's patterns, behaviors, and responses to the coaching process itself. So it goes beyond the content of what conversations you have with your client, and it looks on a grander scale how the client expresses themselves, how they engage with the different coaching goals or tasks they're working towards, and how they even respond to you as their coach. Now, meta coaching can deepen your client's awareness of themselves. It could help uncover some underlying beliefs or obstacles they have, and it can also create for a more effective and transformational coaching experience. There are 3 different ways in which you can use meta coaching with your clients. So I'm going to share with you some examples in this episode. The key with meta coaching, in order to apply it with your clients, is you want to be having a heightened level of awareness in your sessions. So you're not just listening and paying close attention to the content of the session, what your client is presenting and whatever challenge they want to work on, but you're also noticing how the client is communicating overall, how they are reacting to you and the coaching approaches that you implement, how they are interacting with you as their coach. So you're kind of listening with 2 different sets of ears, right? You're listening to the client in the context of the session, but you're also listening and observing the client in the context of the entire coaching container. So like I said, this is a higher level concept, and it's certainly okay and understandable if you don't grasp it right away. But I want to start to plant the seed for you to begin listening at this higher level and incorporating meta coaching into your sessions. Okay, so let's start with, there's 3 different categories in which you can incorporate meta coaching into a session. One is on how the client is expressing themselves and they're sharing their thoughts. That's one way that you can use meta coaching, and I'll give you examples of all 3. The second is how they respond to the overall coaching process, the overall container in which they are consuming your coaching program or sessions. And the third way you can use meta coaching is in how they respond to you as their coach. So I want to go through each of these 3 ways. Again, meta coaching is about coaching them not just on the challenge they have, but on who they're being in regards to the entire coach-client relationship. So you'll be observing how they're responding to the process, the coaching process, how it is that they are engaging in the the questions that you ask them, the tools that you use. So first you need to have proper coaching tools, and you need to have proper questions and approaches that you can take in your session. So you, again, want to make sure that you have a strong foundation in coaching before you start to also bring meta coaching into your sessions. So the first example, which is how the first example or category of meta coaching is how the client expresses themselves and their thoughts. You might notice that when you are asking your client questions and using coaching tools, there may be patterns and themes in how it is that they respond and communicate with you. And you might notice that some of those communication styles they have may be holding them back. Now, there's an episode I did not too long ago on the different types of self-sabotaging language that clients might use in a session, and how important it is to recognize those different phrases or words they might use and address them. For example, let's say that you ask your client questions and you notice throughout the session, your client often starts out their response with, well, here's the problem, blah, 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 right? You might say, what's getting in the way? Let's say your client is wanting support with dating. You might say, okay, tell me about your current dating life. They might say, well, the problem is I just can't find anybody, and I just don't think there's anyone good in my hometown or where the city I live in, blah, blah, blah. And then later on in the session, you might say, okay, well, tell me about the different types of dates you've currently been on. And they start out by saying, well, here's the problem with the dates I've been on right now. So you might notice themes in their communication style, and this could be something really interesting to address with them. So you might say something like, may I make an observation? I notice that when you respond to many of the questions I present to you, you start out with the expression, well, the problem is, almost as if you are creating and labeling something as a problem, even if it's not necessarily a problem. And this could be an interesting thing to let your client notice and see how they react to that. And maybe it's also revealing to how it is they describe other situations in their life. Maybe they're labeling things as problems and they're creating more of an issue than what's really there. They're creating extra stress. They are focused so much on problems, so therefore they're only going to continue finding problems. And you notice how it's just that one expression, but maybe you pick up on it with your client. And by revealing that, again, it goes beyond the actual coaching content itself and looks deeper into a theme in a communication style. Another example of how a client might often express themselves is they might use phrases like need to and have to. So you might ask them a question, for example, of, let's say you're doing career coaching. You might say, what kind of lifestyle do you want your career to allow you to have? And they might say, well, I really need to have a life where I could travel and I need to be able to have flexibility. I need to have that. And you could point out how you notice they're using the phrase need to a lot, right? Or maybe there's a situation where you are doing health coaching and you say, okay, well, tell me about why is getting in shape important to you? And your client might say, well, I have to get in shape because I have to live a long, healthy life. I have to be around for my kids. I have to be more fit so I can have more energy throughout the day, right? That expression have to is sometimes limiting for people because it implies that there's no choice, just like need to. Need to implies like they're forcing themselves to do it against their own will. So meta coaching would sound like you saying, may I make an observation? It sounds like you are saying you have to get in shape. And I'm curious to know, is this a have to or is this a want to? I'm hearing you say that you need to have freedom in your life. Is it that you need to or that you want to have freedom in your life? Notice the difference energetically when you say choose to, want to, instead of saying have to and need to. So that's another common way in which you might use meta coaching when you hear your client use various words or phrases that could be limiting them, that could be putting unnecessary stress, obligation, or pressure on their goals. Another interesting way that I've used meta coaching before is when clients say the phrase, I don't know, a lot. So maybe you ask them a question and right away they say, well, I don't know. And then they go on and give an answer. But it's a common expression many people will have, especially if they're new to coaching. I've noticed it happens with someone that's never been coached before. You'll ask them questions and right away they'll say, I don't know. And way back on this podcast, I made an episode on how do you respond if a client says, I don't know. It's within the first 50, I think. Somewhere in there, I made a podcast where I go deeper into that. But it could be interesting to look at that with your client if they often say, I don't know, to see what that's about. Right? Maybe it is that they're lacking some kind of trust in themselves. Like I've had many times where clients will say, I don't know. And then a few seconds later, they'll come up with an amazing insight. And I'll say, may I make an observation? I notice a lot of times you say, I don't know. But then a few seconds later, you seem to have an answer. What could that be about? Right? Or what is it really about when you say, I don't know? Like, what's the purpose of you even saying that? And sometimes your clients will recognize something powerful about themselves they didn't realize before. Like maybe, I just have always assumed that I don't really know what I want. And that could be a whole different breakthrough they have in the session that goes beyond of whatever it is they came to the session with. And then one last example I'll give you for this category is if a client is often apologizing for feeling a certain way. This one could be really big for many people. So they may express some kind of emotion in a session, and right when they express a more vulnerable or tender emotion, they might say, I'm sorry to be crying right now. Like, I'm sorry that this is bothering me so much. So they are apologizing for feeling a totally valid human emotion. This can be an interesting observation to make for your client in revealing how they're apologizing for feeling an emotion and looking deeper into what that's about and how they can allow themselves to feel whatever they're feeling without judgment and give themselves permission to have any emotion they want to have without needing to apologize for it. So those are some examples of the first category of meta coaching, which is on how a client expresses themselves, their thoughts, and their emotions in your sessions. The second category is in how your client engages with the coaching process or container overall. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say that your coaching program is 12 sessions, 12 one-on-one sessions, 1 session a week. And you notice that your client is showing up 5 minutes late every week to your sessions. Now, many coaches out there who are not familiar with this concept of meta coaching would probably brush this off, and when the client jumps into their session a few minutes late, the client will probably apologize for being late, and the coach will likely say, oh, it's fine, let's just dive on in. And I think that when you understand meta coaching, there's actually something greater that you can look at with this behavior that could reveal something that could help your client get some kind of breakthrough they weren't expecting to get. A lot of times the way that the client shows up to the coaching process, it is indicative of how they might be showing up in other areas of their life and why they might be held back. So you want to be really keen on how your client engages and responds to your coaching program and the overall process to see if there could be some clues there as to other blocks that are preventing them from showing up at their best. So if a client is showing up late to a session and it's becoming a theme, you can point that out for your client. You say, may I make an observation? I noticed that over the past few sessions, you've shown up several minutes late, and every time it's been for a different reason. And I'm not here to make you wrong for showing up late, but what I am here to do is reveal some potential blind spots that you might have. So what do you think could be behind you being late to our sessions? And I might even ask a question of how much is this a theme in your life where you find that you are late to important responsibilities or commitments that you have. And this could likely reveal something greater for your client that they didn't know was there before. So you can dig into how your client is engaging with the overall coaching container and process. Now, the third category of meta coaching is on how your client responds to you. This one is really big. And this is why it's so important when you coach to not take anything personally when your client has resistance or defensiveness towards you, because it's not about you. You are simply a reflection into how they engage with other intimate relationships in their life. And here's what I mean by that. The coach-client relationship is an intimate relationship, okay? It is a relationship in which it's a professional relationship, but it also involves the client in a space where they are sharing vulnerable things, and it's requiring that they have a sense of safety and trust with you. So a lot of coaches might not understand the true intimacy that comes with being in this role of a coach and working with clients. The relationship that a client has with you as their coach may very likely parallel how they show up to other intimate or close relationships in their life. Okay, so if they struggle in other relationships to have safety and trust and open up to others, then it's likely that when they start working with you, even if you are an amazing coach, it's likely that they're going to have walls up and that they may also have difficulty engaging with you as their coach. So here's another example of how this might come up. You might notice at times that when you are asking your client certain questions or using various tools, that your client may get defensive. And if you're not properly trained to understand why this might happen, you might, hopefully you don't, but you might get defensive back, or you might think that something is wrong with the client, or maybe your questions are off, and whatever it might be. Now, if you are using a more aggressive and challenging coaching style, this of course may evoke some defensiveness with your client. And I think it was maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, I made an episode on different coaching styles. So you can listen to that one to learn more about how different coaching styles may impact your clients. But let's say that you're not even using an aggressive or assertive or challenging coaching style, and you notice that your client is being defensive. This could be something to bring to your clients' awareness. This could be really powerful for them to notice why they are becoming defensive and to see how that might be limiting their own growth and progress. So noticing when your client is defensive. Another example of how this might show up in how your client responds to you, how meta coaching will show up, is if your client, let's say you acknowledge or compliment your client, okay? They get something done and you celebrate them for a moment. You say, listen, that's so awesome. You are really incredible that you got that done. It just shows how dedicated and resilient and hardworking you are. And the client just doesn't receive that acknowledgement. They bypass it. They just move on to the next thing. This is a huge opportunity for growth. It is quite common for people to discount their achievements. So this could be something interesting to reveal as a point of observation to your clients to see what's behind them downplaying their achievements and dismissing positive feedback. Meta coaching would be really interesting here to see if there's some underlying imposter syndrome that's coming up for them or underlying self-esteem challenges that they might have. And this could lead to a really rich and juicy coaching session. Another example of how you can use meta coaching and how your client responds to you is if they have an over reliance on you, if they're constantly needing your approval. This one will happen quite often. Your client will come up with ideas and they'll come up with goals, and then they'll say, well, what do you think about that, coach? Like, do you think that I should do that? What do you think? And this is really an interesting moment of a session because a coach who might not be properly trained might just go on and give their opinion, which might further validate and create a need for the client to have dependency on their coach and require their coach's approval, need their coach's validation. You don't want that to happen in your coaching sessions. This is not the type of relationship you want to create with your client. You want your client to become more independent, to not require or need your approval in order to move forward in their life. So if the client is expecting and wanting you, their coach, to give them answers, to give them solutions, to give them validation, to agree with their decisions, then you could use meta coaching to look at what's going on there. And you can encourage your client to take more ownership of their growth and really make decisions that align with what they want. Because it could be a sign of how they show up in other areas of their life. I might ask a client, where else in your life do you feel like you need other people's validation or permission before you can take the next step forward, right? That can lead to such an interesting coaching session right there. And then you could follow up with a question like, what would be different? Like, what would you do if you didn't need my approval or my permission? Like, what would you do then? So there's so much you can cover. And then finally, if you notice that your client is frequently interrupting you, maybe you are in the middle of answering something they said, or you're asking a question, or you're in the middle of using a tool with them, and you find that they're frequently interrupting you, again, you don't want to take this personally because it's all just a mirror reflection into how they might show up in other dynamics and relationships in their life. We are just here as observers, okay? We're just here as observers. So you can use meta coaching to see what could be going on there, right? If your client is wanting relationship coaching and you notice that they are frequently interrupting you, and as the coach, if you're feeling like, wow, I'm kind of feeling shut down, it's not like you want your client to validate you or to make you feel heard, but it could be an interesting point of awareness to serve their ultimate agenda if they're looking to improve their relationships. You can make that observation and say, I'm noticing sometimes that you begin to share your thoughts before I finish articulating my thoughts or asking you a question. And I'm noticing if you're also aware of that too, right? You might gently want to lay that out on the table to see if the client is also aware of that pattern, because likely it is they're not, and it's a blind spot. And then you could go beyond that to see how that type of communication and interrupting could be impacting their other relationships in their life. Okay, so those are some different examples of meta coaching. How insane is that? Hopefully this is going to open up a whole new dimension of listening that you can use in your sessions. Again, this is a more advanced concept. You don't want to use this approach in your sessions unless you have a strong foundation with your clients and you know how to properly coach. So if you're not already in Thriving Coach Academy, this is the time to get your booty inside. Let us show you how to properly coach so that way you have the confidence to use these higher level concepts and more. We teach a lot of advanced coaching concepts and skills like this that go way beyond the basics, and we'd love to provide that for you and also show you how to grow a business. This is a very, very amazing time, maybe the best time ever, I would say, to join the Academy because the tuition is going up at the start of the new year. January 1st, the tuition is going up. So you want to take advantage of our tuition while it is the lowest it will be by jumping in and becoming a student and joining our community. All right, that's what I got in this episode on meta coaching. Before you go, please remember to leave this podcast a review if you've received value. Write a couple of sentences why you've loved the show. It means so much. And I'm going to leave you with a snippet from an interview I did with one of our coaches on the inside of the Academy so you can hear a little bit about their path to success as a coach and learn from their journey. Enjoy that coach's story, and I will see you in the next episode.
Hi, I'm Faye Casement. I am based out of the UK, and I was an HR consultant and then a couple of years ago, I came across life coaching through starting a weight loss program. I'm now 65 pounds down. I've been doing human resources for 20 years and love working with clients, love helping people in that sense. But I'd always wanted to have my own business. I'm at a stage in my life now where I want to be thinking about how my career fits with my life. So I have a daughter, she's 15. At some point, she may want to have children. I don't want to be working a 9 to 5 and then miss out on those children. From the journey that I've been on, I've seen the power of life coaching, and I want to offer that to other people. Then as a result of that, I have decided to change careers and become a life coach. And so I joined the Academy. I did a trawl through the ICF website, clicking galore, and then I came across the Academy. What I found actually was that a lot of the others were really hard to navigate what it was that they were offering. They were really closed down with regards to what they were all about. It was like it was a closely guarded secret. Whereas with Thriving, loved the way that Frank presented himself on the videos and everything like that, and I just really warmed to it. And so yeah, deal was done. Now I've connected with some amazing people that I would now like to consider lifelong friends and acquaintances. There's a lot of opportunity for mixing with other coaches from all around the world now. It's the community side of it that's definitely a huge bonus there. Love the teachings, I love the vibe. In fact, we get lots of practice time as well. So again, it's just kind of getting that all round knowledge, learning, and experience. I've gained that confidence that I can not only be a life coach, but that I can be a business owner and an entrepreneur. So if you're somebody considering the academy, what I'd say is, what are you waiting for? Because ultimately, the program that you are going to get is not only detailed and comprehensive, you're going to get the support of an amazing community and coaches and mentor coaches, and your life can begin as soon as you join.
Hey, would you like access to powerful coaching tools you can use on yourself and clients right away? For being a listener of the podcast, I'm giving you a VIP guest pass to get a sneak peek into my coach training program. Inside, you'll learn our coach's secret tool they use to transform their clients' lives. And you'll also get a training on how to launch a coaching business. Just head over to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com/VIP to get started. I'll see you on the inside.